Hi, and welcome back to Animal Liberation TV. So, I'm going to continue with a short episode on the Huddersfield Four because I've fallen a bit behind on that and the Memories of Freedom about the North American ALF. And it's funny because neither of these series has generally been that popular on the channel, which I was quite surprised about. I thought people would be quite into these stories because there's a lot of really good information in there and lots of really good sort of insights into stages of history over here and in the Memories of Freedom one in America. But anyway, I'm sure some people have been following this. I know they have. So for the few people that have, I will continue. But I do encourage people to watch these episodes because I think they're great stories. And this has got there's loads of good twists in this story. Um, anyway, regardless of that, I'm going to crack on. If you remember rightly, I think the last one was part 5, and I did 2 pages where I talked about Operation Fox between Greater Manchester Police and Huddersfield, which I've mentioned in every episode, I think. And there was the talk about the bugging and the public interest immunity and how the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, were coordinating ALF cases around the UK at that point. Because don't forget, this is from the summer of '91, and the arrest, or sometime soon around that point, I think, and it was part of the ALF response to the murder of Hunt saboteur Mike Hill in February 1991, which the second podcast is about. So if you do follow my channel closely and you've watched every episode and you're getting to know the people and the stories, this is a really important little piece, jigsaw, especially of the early 90s ALF, which I was a part of, as you know. So there exists a CPS coordinating committee, which in fact I found the document, didn't I, for that, which I read out in Badger's Stories, The Queen versus Keith Mann, and I promised to do an episode on that. I haven't been able to find it. Hang on, is that it there? Oh, that's it there. I've been looking for it for ages. Literally just... I wish everything was like that. You think of it and mention it and you find it. If only I had those superpowers. Anyway, I might do an episode on that tonight as well. I want to crack out a few shorter episodes tonight and catch up a little bit. So anyway, yeah. It's got a little photocopy of the CPS ALF cases, and that is in fact this paper, which I can't show too closely because there's loads of information I don't feel entitled to share. And when I say that, what I mean is it's got lists of all the court cases from 1991 around the UK, ALF related court cases, and some of those people got off, and even the people who were convicted, they wouldn't necessarily, I don't think, appreciate me reading out their names and their charges and whatever else for everyone potentially in the world to know via the internet. I know not many people watch this channel or this series, but still, it's not my right to go revealing other people's details. You know, it's one thing me coming on here and talking about having been involved in the ALF and all the rest of it. That's my decision. It's not my decision to reveal other people who have moved on in their lives. You know, it would be rude of me to do that. And disrespectful, and also kind of snitchy, really, you know. And I don't like snitches, as everyone knows. So the exact nature of what they do isn't apparent, though it's likely that the committee decide upon specific prosecutors, charges to be brought, pass on information from the different cases, evidence and results, and decide upon the timing of the trials. Involved the QCs to argue the case for public interest immunity. Oh dear. Which public interest immunity I mentioned a lot. Basically, it's a clause they use when they don't want to hand over information and evidence they've gathered. They don't think it's right for the defence to actually see what they've been up to. So that's, in a summary, that's what it is. Some prosecutors are involved in all of the animal liberation trials. One person in the CPS committee, presumably, is a Mr. Kevin Goodwin, prosecuting solicitor in the upcoming Manchester trial. Oh, Goodwin. Fuck it. Oh. I'm going to talk about that guy quite a lot when it comes to Badger's Stories and the Manchester conspiracy case, because I hate that guy. I literally loathe him, and you'll understand why when you hear in Badger's story is exactly what he did against me and my family. Anyway, during one of his arrogant boasts to a defence solicitor, he was an arrogant little prick as well, I tell you, God. He demonstrated his knowledge of other cases by claiming that the bugs in Huddersfield produced the best evidence nationwide. Well, as we see, that's didn't work out so well for the prosecution and police, this case. It is quite probable that this was responsible for the trial in Leeds being the first of the big trials resulting from large numbers of people arrested for animal liberation related offences in 1991. The people had been sentenced in Kent, Wolverhampton and Belfast, but regardless of the timing of arrests, the Huddersfield Four would be the first to stand trial, a tactical move which would help subsequent trials with less incriminating evidence by setting precedents and creating a climate of criminalised animal liberation activists. Very good observation, that. So what was the evidence against the four? All four were arrested at the slaughterhouse dressed in balaclavas and dark camouflage clothing. All had gloves on and socks over their shoes. Socks over the shoes, that was kind of like a very old school method of, making it so your footwear doesn't leave a print. But to be honest, if you I'm not encouraging anyone, I'm just saying this is how it was, if you're going to do an action, really, you should throw your footwear away straight away after that action, whatever. But especially if you're involved in a raid or criminal damage or allegedly arson or whatever, you should definitely be getting rid of your shoes straight away after. But maybe it's so that you can't be linked in anyway with the shoes, even if they find the shoes thrown away somewhere or something. I don't know. Anyway, so there's an argument for that. But also found at the scene was a bag containing a pair of bolt croppers, a crowbar, a bradawl, which is like I think it's an piece of artist's equipment you normally get from art shops. I'm just describing it. I'm not inciting people to use them or buy them. You'd have it in an artist toolkit. It's got a wooden, I think mostly sort of like little handle that you hold, and out of that comes a thin metal spike with a really pointy tip on, and people used to use those for puncturing tyres on lorries and cars. An automatic centre punch. So an automatic centre punch is a little tool. I'm not quite sure what it's used for normally. Marking points on metalwork maybe or something, but looks like a sort of like little mini screwdriver, and then there's like an outer sleeve, a long outer, and inside of that goes this other thing that's mounted on a spring, and what happens is this point of the bit on the inside goes in as you push it against something, and then what happens is as you push this point against something, it recoils back against the spring at the back, and so this point thing punches out. Where is it? Centre punch. So yeah, it's kind of like this thing that fires out in itself. And people used to use that apparently, so I've heard, to smash side windows of vehicles. Side windows of vehicles are completely different from windscreens. Windscreens of vehicles are very solid, hard things, so they won't smash. The side windows are designed so that if there's an impact, they smash into like thousands of little tiny pieces. The glass just goes frosted and if it's smashed. And people used to do that to then apparently, because I know this from reading evidence in court cases, they then used to place incendiary devices on the seats in the cabs of the lorries. They were targeting the meat lorries, basically, or the animal transporters during this 91 period. So that was a classic toolkit for everyone. Tin snips, 4 cigarette lighters, a damp rag said to be soaked in accelerants. So accelerants basically is what police, prosecution describe as like something that's generally inflammable. So like white spirits, petrol, diesel, that sort of stuff. It was proved by the prosecution, lately proved soaked in water by forensics. So there wasn't any accelerants on it. And a Stanley knife. One of the defendants also had in their possession a torch with a red filter fitted. Cool. The defendants' cars were both seized near the scene. Various items were taken from them and searched and from searches of homes. Amongst the items considered of evidential value were spare petrol canisters, one containing a diesel petrol mix. Okay, so yeah, apparently if you have a mix of like 50-50 diesel and petrol, it burns better and longer, or something like that. There's the mix of the best of both properties in their burning potential. So it's been a classic case that incendiary devices involving accelerants in bottles and containers and all this throughout history, not just by animal rights people, but by lots of direct action groups, IRA, Red Army faction, loads of people. It would be a diesel petrol 50-50 mix they use. So I've heard, again, this is all stuff I've learned. Funnels, plastic bottles, gaffer tape, incense sticks, a tub of sodium chlorate, weed killer. I mean, that does all sound a little bit dodgy, I have to say, but it's kind of standard stuff that people would have there in their houses as well. Letters from friends, letters to be sent to prisoners, and all sorts of animal rights literature, leaflets, etc. The police labelled all of this as ALF literature, some of which was, the vast majority was not. A copy of the pamphlet Into the 90s with the ALF, a dodgy sort of instruction manual, was planted by the police amongst this. Dear. Hey? Added to this was evidence of observations by plainclothes detectives of the bug time, observations of movements in the slaughterhouse and the surrounding area, and transcriptions of 2 nights' conversations. And I'm going to stop there to keep it nice and short and sweet. So it goes on about how they didn't find any incendiary devices, though, as part of it. That's the next thing. So I'll do those next 2 pages on the next episode. So I hope you do feel like you've learned a little bit more. And it's like, surely you're starting to see how, a lot of the stuff I say is right, and how stuff is interconnected, like the Into the 90s pamphlet that I mentioned in the Queen versus Keith Mann stuff, the outline of the Manchester conspiracy, and I said how kind of central to it all Into the 90s was. Well, there you go, it's getting mentioned again, and it was planted by the Phil. So, lots of interesting stories as part of this Huddersfield Four case, and the more you listen to it and follow it, you will be wanting to hear the developments of it. So, in the meantime, everyone, take care.